Do you think that there would be like single-sided staking, like just to stake Pulse or Pulsex? And if so, do you think that defeats the purpose of Hex itself? You know, because you want to have Hex stake Hex, right? So why would you want to incentivize staking Pulsex when I guess the incentive for Pulsex would be the farming, and then the incentive for Pulse would be the validating, and then Hex would be the staking. Am I correct on that, or?
Sort of. So we do have single side staking for Pulse, but you have to run the computer, right? You got to run the
Got it.
validator to
Yeah.
do it, and there's some risk. It's not like single side staking with zero risk, right? There is risk if if you get penalized. You got to have some technical know-how. Pulse X, the one you're talking about, is not going to yield the native coin Pulse X, right? So you're not going to get more Pulse X on a single side. So that's the advantage of Hex. With Hex, you single side stake with no penalties as long as you just keep your time, and then you're going to get more Hex. So that's
Correct.
still, it's pretty low risk, right? It's pretty preferential. The Pulse X, I believe, will be paying out in other coins. So who knows what those will be worth, right? I mean, it's kind of like getting little lottery tickets. You could get one that's worth a lot. You could get one that just flops, and maybe you want to sell as much as you can, and maybe everybody else does too. And so it could be a little dumpamental on some of those coins that you get. IFO pools, right? Famous.
Yes, sir. I think the answer to that question is basically like Hex is on a different level because you're interacting with the contract, as the other coins don't necessarily have any native functions to their contract. So like the single side staking on Pulsex is not native to the contract, and Pulse Chain basically has no contract because it's Pulse, right? It's the one. So when you look at Hex, it's on a different level. It's a different option because you're technically guaranteed your yield. Like you are guaranteed. You do the 100%, right? If you respect the contract, you're getting
Makes
a yield.
perfect
You know what I
makes
mean?
perfect sense. No, no, that's great. That's perfect. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for your help.
a lot of people don't differentiate the two because of the word staking, and when you use it, it's like you think it's the same, but Hex is not staking at all. I hate that term. I think it's bullshit. It's kumbaya. It's the dumbed down version because you're not staking. You're actually interacting with the contract, right? And none of the other coins you're able to interact with the contract to do yield reward mechanism, right? So
Perfect.
yeah,
Well said. Great explanation. Thank you. So
my
basically, the
pleasure, man.
answer is stake your Hex and farm your Pulsex. That's the way to do it.
Well, it's options, right? At the end of the day, it's options, but none of those
Yeah.
are technically guaranteed, depending on how it is, right? You gotta have a trust in a way, but the Hex, it's trustless because it's the contract that does what it does. So whether you do it or not, it's there, right? So that's actually guaranteed. Like it's pretty cool, man. When you say it like that,
Yeah.
like you are guaranteed. Like,
Awesome. Awesome. Okay,
my
great,
pleasure,
man.
man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. One last question. This is purely speculative, though. I don't know if it's an annoying question or not, but I'm just wondering regarding like the OA itself. I know no one really speaks on it and what can happen, but do you somehow maybe foresee it kind of being like how a corporation in the stock market, for example, has shares that they don't release in the market until a certain market cap or a certain time? Do you foresee maybe, I know it's speculative, of course, but do you foresee maybe like when, because obviously the burn rate on PulseX, eventually, it's going to go down. There's not going to be a big supply of it, right? Say it goes down 80% and there's only, whatever, 2 trillion left minus the OA. Do you think that, obviously speculative, that there would be some type of like more shares dumped in the market for PulseX once it reaches a certain supply because of the burn, kind of like how a corporation would do, issue shares like in the form of, I know it's not a stock split or a reverse split, but something of that matter? Maybe not now, but 8-10 years from now.
So providing liquidity, the shares wouldn't be issued, right? There's Pulsex sitting in a wallet. If there's an issue with liquidity, you're probably right. The Sacrifice wallet would take some Pulsex and provide liquidity to just keep the market smooth, right? But it's kind of cool not to, though, to see how the community makes the price go up. If you push too much in, then the price doesn't go up as much. So I think the OAs could be less and less of a factor over the course of time, because if things are just smooth and they're working, then why do anything? Just let the community do everything and see what happens. That's always been like a pretty good mantra. Like even some of the big away stakes didn't even end their stake, right? That's like, what? They're not even ending, but no, they're just sitting there. And some people go to count and some, which I was like, just don't go to count them. Wait for 2 years and then give us a bonus, guys. Come on.
Yeah, right on. All right, well, thank you guys. That was all my questions. I appreciate it always.
Money gang, crypto. How did you get involved in the Richard Hart ecosystem?
Being a greedy bastard, basically. I was like a bit of an ETH maxi, and then I remember I was using what was I using crypto.com, and I was earning some yield on it. I was like, this is shit, man. This is not enough money, you know. And then I think I was just digging. Maybe I come across an interview or something like that, and I heard, 10,000x. People were talking about it. It's like, damn, this is exactly what I was looking for, because it didn't make sense to me that you couldn't earn any sort of yield on your asset. Like if you can earn yield on, say, the S&P 500, you can earn, I don't know, 10% per year. Surely you can do the same in crypto. That was my thinking. So then I come across Richard, and yeah, I liked it, man. I liked the community. Some people I felt right, some were a little bit wacky, but I liked the community spirit. I liked the fact that it was a good bond, and you know, I like the fact that a lot of people would go after them and say, oh, you guys are a cult, this, that, and the other, or you guys are this, like FUD, and they're very resilient. Like they were very much like, a lot of people would push back. I've noticed that. So when I first got into it, I was like, okay, these guys are, you know, they're pretty sharp. They're happy to argue. They're happy to like go against the common grainers per se. And I find that if you have a very, very strong community, you can have success long term. I've noticed that with Bitcoin. I've noticed that even with some of the ETH guys as well. So yeah, that's how I first originally got into it. Man, I bought near the top, 33 cents, 22 cents respectively. On the way down, 56 cents or whatever. And then I've been able to reduce that down to 1 cent average when I take into account, not taking into account the rewards, but I was gifted some hex by winning a competition. I also, you know, applied the principles of DCA and the lows. Yeah, it really did work. Yeah, I sacrificed Pulsechain Pulsex. Pulse, yeah, originally it was an okay rate because it was a little bit late in, but yeah, Pulsex, I was day one.
I think that Binance pair, what they did for Bitcoin to 138,000, is just some crazy things they're doing with swaps and things like that with across markets, close out certain things with what's going on in the financial markets in general. I think Binance does a lot of that, but that's just my own thoughts. I'm not really too fond of, even though I know Binance helps crypto in general keep it up, but I just feel like there's a lot of weird things that go along with Binance and how they operate certain things, you know?
The one thing I can't stand at the moment is all the Bitcoin boys coming out to play and just putting all these posts up, all markets back on, all this shit.
They have to try to stay relevant.
Yeah, probably. I reckon my hedron will do more X's than Bitcoin will this bull run.
Facts.
Anything, bro. Bitcoin Cash outperformed Bitcoin. It went to like $1,600 to like a 5x from like $200 all the way up to like $1,600.
Everything other than Bitcoin is leverage on Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's facts, man.
But I mean, there's enough people already using Ethereum and things like that. I feel like it's now about like, okay, we need to onboard them to Pulsechain because it's Ethereum, but faster, cheaper, and all that. It's Ethereum 3.0, and that's my angle.
Yeah, 100%. I'm excited for all the projects that will launch. That's going to be the next step. There's so much in the pipeline. Like I don't understand when I see so much FUD sometimes. You guys are not even going to go through the cycle of a bear to bull run, and then you're not even going to see the projects that have been promised launch. You're not even going to wait for the highest stakes or anything like that. I don't know. Maybe
We
I'm crazy.
can't see FUD though. Like whenever you have your vision on like the future with it, whether it's 1 year or 3 years, I don't think any of us are actually looking at FUD. You see like just people tweeting, and that doesn't really mean everything. You see a couple of people selling everything, but it really doesn't mean anything in my opinion. Like FUD is just someone's like knee-jerk reaction to an emotion that they had in their brain that doesn't really exist in my opinion.
It just looks like a lack of stoicism, man. Just like a lack of control over their emotional.
That's humanity, man.
Yeah, true. I don't know.
Do you guys know if there's a project in the pipeline of like a direct fiat off ramp where, I don't know how to explain it. I think it's $1 million or $1 billion idea, really. Just basically being able to convert your coin or your Pulsex or Pulsechain or whatever from the exchange itself directly to your bank account or vice versa. That would be great. I don't know if there's anything like that now, and if there is, you would have to get some kind of bank that would cooperate with that, right? Like
Yeah, I think the only thing that's been proposed really that I know of, I might be wrong on this, is CST, which is Coast stablecoin, and then from that being able to transfer it through. But yeah, I don't think there's something direct like to bring your Pulse straight into a bank and
Got
convert it
it.
into pound.
It's called CST, you said?
Yes, Coast stable token.
Oh,
If you go
Coast. Yeah,
check
yeah,
out.
yeah. Yeah, I gotta look at there. But basically, it would be from the coin to another bank, basically, and from that bank will work with the main bank, like one of the big banks, I guess, like a Chase or Bank of America. I'm in the U.S., so there will have to be a middle bank that would basically facilitate the funds. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. Here's just a
Got it.
side note of like some small information that probably nobody in here needs. My license expired. I had to pay tickets to get a new license, whatever, blah blah blah. But with Coinbase, after it expired, it made me re KYC, take another picture, and it wouldn't take it once it was expired. However, MoonPay does. So whether MoonPay, I can't remember if I KYC'd with MoonPay, but that my MoonPay still works, so I can still on ramp through there. As for off ramping, I don't plan on off ramping for years, so I'm not really worried about it. But yeah, definitely on ramps and off ramps are important to me.
Of course. Yeah, I think off ramp will be really, really good. I mean, not for me, of course, because I don't plan on selling for a long time, but it'll just be something really great to convince, for adoption wise. I have some buddies that, maybe they don't want to hold for a long time, but if they have big dollars and they want to put money in, I could just say, hey, you could do it this way, as an option just to get more people to the ecosystem. Because that's all I'm trying to do right now is I'm just trying to get all my friends and stuff like that aren't too, sold on the ecosystem based off just lack of information, I guess, and education. So like I think that would be like a home run to say, hey, this is what you could do and how you could do it quickly and with privacy and things like that. That would be amazing in my opinion,
And I really think Pulsechain caters to the younger people that aren't ETH whales, right? Because like I look at Dex Screener and I see a lot of transactions. They're just like $1, $5 here, a couple of $10. You know what I mean? On ETH, you don't see that because it's not cost effective because it costs $20 to $100 to make a transaction. So I do feel like Pulsechain could easily be marketed to the new generation of users in crypto.
100%.
Richard is no doubt listening to us right now. Look at his latest tweet.
Love you, bro.
Love you, Richard.
So, SJ, do you have any updates on the film? Because you are talking to RG3 often.
So what I do know, but I think they announced this already, is that they added Pulsechain to it. They added the launch. So they had to go back, like reorder the opera, the orchestra, sorry, have them do the closing scenes again, I guess, because they added that to it. But I don't think that that's delaying it much. I think that might be either close to done or done, and then hopefully it'll get released. And I don't know about like where it's getting released or anything.
I don't necessarily know if it's going to get released as soon as it's done because, like I said, that's an ace in the hand.
I think it will.
That's one of the last big wild cards we have, and releasing that at the perfect time is actually really important to what the future.
No, everyone that's invested in that movie has waited too long.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah,
it's gonna as soon as it's done, I believe it's just gonna come out. Like
I was actually just looking at the chart.
And hopefully it'll just be perfect timing.
Yeah, it probably will. That's what I was getting ready to say. Even if they're going to release the second they can, I think the timing is still perfect because it's going to take a little bit to get out there on Netflix or whatever. Whoever buys it, it doesn't matter as long as it gets out there. We're going to get so many non-coiners and non-crypto people to be watching that, and that's exactly what we need.
Oh yeah.
But I wanted to ask you guys, what do you want to see in the future of the ecosystem? You got Hex and Pulse and Pulsex. I'm personally a huge Hex fan. I want to see Hex, both hexes as close together as possible. That's just my views. Even though it was a stock split, basically, I still want to see them as close to parity as possible. Obviously, the P version is going to probably going to be slightly ahead of the other one. But I want to know from people, what do they want to see built in the ecosystem? Because we got so much crap. Like I get into these spaces and I hear people talking about these projects that just make no sense. Like they're just making memes after meme after meme, and people are happy with that for some reason. I don't understand it, but
because it's the bottom of a bear market. That's why. Shiny new objects.
Yeah, the crazy thing is those memes are going to do well until they don't.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, wow. Like, how cool is it, or was it, to get to do that and like watch him live stream and Where is he?
That's a good question. Where is he? Has anybody seen him at all?
I mean, I
I
can.
feel like he did that one video a few weeks ago where he was just like a short 30-second,
Yeah,
just
that's
to
Some
let
him.
people
everybody know
think
he's
that
still
that was
alive.
for the video. That was for the documentary.
Probably. He's alive. He's around. I can tell you that much. I've seen people like legitimately think he's dead and that was an AI. It's just like, man, y'all are on another level. He's alive. He's
I think it has to
just
do with
fucking
legalities
busy.
in the FCC
Yep.
crap.
It's a lot
Yeah,
of it.
I believe it has to do with him just protecting his ass,
Yeah,
and that's
I'm sure
fine.
that's a
I
part of it.
understand that 100%.
You get it. Definitely part of it. It is.
Not that anything illegal is happening.
Right,
No, but
exactly.
still, it's a hot button right now, and he's being
hmm
careful to dance around it, and that's, in my opinion, pretty smart of him.
It's gonna
'Cause,
be glorious when it happens, though. That's the thing. Is like I think
absolutely.
and he's in it for the glory. Like he said that so many times. So
Right. Oh, when it's glorious, he'll be out. You'll see his face
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah. Maybe he's working on himself a little too. He looked like he's doing all right in that video. You couldn't really see much, but I wouldn't doubt that he's got some self-care stuff going on, especially with his humble view that he's taken. I think there's still Richard, he's still Richard, but I can see how he wants to do more than just crypto, right? So he's, I think, really checking himself and making sure that should he want to make a larger impact on the world, he has, this kind of track record of like being this really legit, kind, caring human who, like he has said, wants to see everybody else's cups overflow.
So I feel like the next big run we have, there's going to be a big transition in a lot of the allocations of Hex and some of the other tokens even. And if the movie does well, I feel like we'll get a lot of new people that will have to kind of fill in on what's happening. We'll be having the same conversation in a few years, but with a whole new group of people, and a lot of people that stuck around and didn't sell the bottom will be kind of holding their hands along the way and filling them in on what has happened. Like, how did we get to the point we're at? And I think the movie is going to really help with that. What other projects have had a movie built around it besides Bitcoin and maybe, I mean, Ethereum? There's not a whole lot of single projects that have documentaries built around them. And the ones that do, look at them. I mean, everybody knows the names.